Join us by the fireside for our evening tales of true life's strange experiences with things that lie beyond the veil of the known and into the misty depths of the mysterious and unknown. A day in the life of a pizza delivery guy. In the summer, just after I graduated high school, I had gotten a job as a pizza delivery person to help, save some money for college and other expenses. And there were some pretty weird experiences in that type of work, and my coworkers can also vouch for that. Based on their own experiences of going to people's houses and just meeting strange characters and you know things like that. But nothing like what happened, that one night that I went and delivered pizza. It happened to be a Friday night, and we deliver pizzas right up until 3 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays, because that's when everybody, wants them, I guess, because they're off from work, and so on. It was probably about, I don't know, 2:45 or 2:30 a.m., and we were preparing to close, and then our manager said that we just got a call for delivery, and this place was almost 20 minutes away. I really needed money at that time, and I was kind of willing to take on just about anything. So I offered to go and do that delivery. So I used Garmin to get around because there were no smartphones and no GPS back then. And so I plugged in the address and then I went off. The Garmin took me deep into the backwoods of rural Texas. It was kind of weird, kind of an eerie sort of place, but, I just kind of was willing to put up with that just for the idea that maybe I get a good tip or something. So I finally arrived at the house, and this house, I'm not kidding. It looked like something out of a horror movie. I mean, it was almost laughable in a creepy sort of way. Like something like where the Adams family might live or something. It was this big wooden two-story home, and it had no lights on. So that was enough to kind of freak me out right away. But I kept going on, and the first thing I noticed about the house was that strangely, this front door was wide open and there were no lights on. So that was kind of spooky. And I wondered if something had happened. So, anyway, I just sort of sat in my car for a few minutes and I was wondering if maybe it was a good idea to even go in this house. Or maybe I could just lie to my manager and just say that there was nobody home and I could just leave. Because something about this place just did not feel right. I mean, it wasn't just the fact the house was really creepy and bizarre looking and the door was wide open, but there was just a feeling there too. Anyway, I needed tip money, so I just sucked it up and I went forward towards the house. I got out of the car. And when I got to the front door, I didn't want to enter right away, so I just knocked on the open door. Nobody answered. So I knocked again as loud as I could, and there was still no response. Finally, I got the courage to shout out, "Pizza delivery! Anyone home?" There were a few moments of silence until I heard a weird voice coming from upstairs, and it said, "Upstairs!" I walked in the house, and I could barely see the surroundings because it was just so dark. But I made it to the bottom of the stairs, and I looked up the stairs into this kind of dark abyss. And I said again, "Pizza delivery!" And the voice spoke again, "Come upstairs! I can't get out of bed." Something was very off about this voice. It just didn't sound normal. And I know it sounds weird, but the best way I can describe it is that if a dog somehow learned how to speak, it would probably sound like that, like it was trying to pronounce human words that were not natural to it. Um, Anyway, the hair just stood up on the back of my neck when I heard this voice. There was no way in hell that I was going up those steps. Even the tip was not worth it. I don't care how much it would have been. So I placed the pizza at the bottom of the stairs and I shouted out, I'm leaving it here at the bottom of the stairs. Have a good night. As I turned away, the voice cried out, No! Come upstairs! I can't get out of bed. I replied, I'm sorry, I'm not even allowed to enter someone's home on the job. You have to come and get it. I heard some loud banging from upstairs, with the voice shouting at full volume. I mean, this was really, really terrifying. Come upstairs! I can't come out of bed! The voice shouted this over and over again, like it was a recording on a sort of loop or something. And the banging just got louder and louder as the voice too just got louder. And I don't know how that would have been possible if it was, a person or something. It's just everything was totally bizarre. So I just got the hell out of there at full speed. So after I got out of there, I never ever went back. To this day, I have never been back to that house again. And a lot of people are saying that maybe it was an old crippled person up there, but if that was the case, who left the door wide open? And the other thing is, this just didn't sound human. Even if it was someone with, breathing problems and stuff, there was just something not right. And no, I didn't try to turn on the light. It was already so late that I just wanted to drop off the pizza and go home, to be honest. And, and the other thing is that a lot of people have mentioned to me that maybe this was a skinwalker up there because it seems to tie in with some of the, the sounds, the way that skinwalkers speak, and also, just the way they behave. So anyway, I don't know what it was, but the thought that maybe it was a skinwalker is even more terrifying, and I'm just glad I did not go up those stairs. Well, whatever it was, it really is good that you didn't go up those stairs, into that room, because God knows what would have happened to you. And, there are some pretty awful stories about what skinwalkers can do to people, if indeed it was that. But who knows? I guess we will probably never find out. The Ouija board. I was interested in getting to know this girl and dating her. And then during our first time hanging out, we watched Paranormal Activity. I forgot which of us suggested it, but we thought that trying to use a Ouija board would be a cool experience. The next day, she ended up buying one and she invited me over to try it. So we tried to fool around with it and, nothing happened. We didn't, get anywhere with it. But then the little plastic thing started moving. I figured it was all just her, though. I thought she was just messing with me. But the words it tried to spell out made no sense to me. So, I'm just kind of ready to dismiss the whole thing. Anyways, we checked this out on YouTube to try and, watch some videos to understand how to use it. And we found out that the board is supposed to have this little plastic thing that came with it, but it didn't have a hole in the center, which is where the letter it is trying to show us would appear. We thought the tip of the plastic triangle thing is where we were supposed to look, so we decided to use a shot glass. Words then started to slowly form, and it started telling us about some house where it and other spirits live, and that the owner was disturbing them by trying to get rid of them all. It gave us a phone number, and this girl actually called it. At this point, I thought she was really trying hard to mess with me and, and try to convince me that this was all real when really it wasn't. And I figured she was going a little too far, but I wanted to, to get to know her better. So I kind of just played along with it, just to try and impress her. So this went on for about 3 or 4 days until eventually I started to believe that this was something was going on. This was real because this was just too weird. She started asking the board who our guardian angels were. And at first, it wrote her mother's name who passed away at a young age for her. And then my turn. It wrote my grandfather's name, but she honestly had no idea who he was. He was sort of a long lost grandfather who I had met 16 years after I was born. He passed shortly after due to cancer, and no one in my family ever spoke about him again. I thought that was weird. I mean, really weird as hell. But, that's just the way some family things go. And then the board wrote my best friend's name, who passed away from suicide a few years ago. Maybe she, this girl, knew about this too. We did have some common friends. However, it wrote his name under an alias that only a handful of people knew, including myself. And these were our gamer nicknames. Both of these names blew me away. There was absolutely no way that she could have known this. So, how could this happen? Anyways, we called it a night. The next day, she tells me the lights in her apartment were turned on, but I convinced her that perhaps she forgot to turn them off. The next day, she texted me saying that she's turned them off and is now leaving for work. So we got back to her place together and they were on. She asked me to sleep over because she was really getting spooked at this point. During the night, I heard what seemed to be cups moving slowly in the cupboards, just, I don't know, just kind of moving about in there. And then the toilet seat slammed down and the shower head started to drop a bunch of leftover water into the bathtub, making a noise. I was pretty scared at that point, and I wondered, what is going on here? So the next morning, we use the board again, and it tells us that there is a new spirit around us, and this one is trying to harm us. For some reason, the girl decides to ask it whether it knows when we will die. And I really wish she hadn't done that. But anyway, it tells me that I'll die sometime in my 80s. And then it tells that she is scheduled to die within the next few months. So that was pretty freaky. So she quickly shut that down and she put the board away. Eventually, not long after that, we just kind of stopped hanging out. And I ended up seeing her 2 years later working in a mall. So I guess the Ouija board, wasn't telling the truth because she was still alive. So to this day, I still don't know what to think of that experience. But, I don't really want to mess with this kind of stuff anymore because there was something that happened with that there was no way that she could have known. And so, I believe that there was definitely some kind of spirit there that was messing with us and that knew, my family and my friend's name and all this kind of stuff. So, but I'm just going to stay away from it from now on. Yeah, I've always heard that Ouija boards can be pretty dangerous. I mean, it's like you're opening the door to just about, anything. You're saying, "Oh yeah, come on in. Doors open. Anybody can just come in." You can't control it. You can't control what comes in. It's like you're opening this portal, this doorway. Um, and yeah, you can get, a good spirit coming through, maybe a relative, but you can also get something pretty messed up that's gonna really, really try to ruin your life. So, from what I've heard of people's experiences with this stuff, no. I definitely stay away from it. It's not worth it. Strange sounds in the hospital. I used to work as a housekeeper in a hospital at nights, and I used to clean the basement, and that included the morgue and the morgue offices. I usually get to the morgue last after I clean the other basement areas like in-house pharmacy offices, the labs, etc. I would get there normally around 11 p.m., which isn't exactly graveyard shift, I know, but it's still nighttime and most people are gone from there. The morgue had some offices attached to it, so I normally cleaned those first before heading back into the morgue autopsy areas. So I was in that office bathroom area and I was cleaning it, and I was in there just a few minutes. And I always locked the door when I was in there because, well, I do kind of get a little bit creeped out when I'm in the morgue area. I came out and the light was off, and I knew I didn't hear anyone come in since the doors are pretty noticeable when they open and close. So I reach over and I flip the switch back on because I was a little freaked out. I continued cleaning the office and nothing else happened. And then I go through the door leading back into the morgue area, and that's when I heard a tapping sound. At first, I tried to ignore it and I thought about something else. I clean both the locker rooms they have, and then I head back into the autopsy area. The second I opened the door, there was a horrible smell that really knocked me out. It was just so bad. I went inside and I see the usual things. There was blood on the floor, steel rolling tables, etc. These are actually normal. Um, I didn't see anything that could have been making that sound, that tapping sound. I look over and the cooler door was open halfway. That's where the smell was coming from. That's the body cooler. So I went over and I had to shut it, but I also wanted to make sure nobody alive was in there, so I didn't shut them in. So I looked in just to check, and the lights were on, and of course, the bodies were there, but there was nobody alive. I was not going in there to turn the lights off, so I just shut the door and went about, mopping the floor as normal. And then about halfway through, that tapping started up again. And it sounded like it was coming from inside the cooler. And I have seen enough scary movies to know that I am not looking in there a second time. So I rolled one of the heavy metal rolling tables up against the cooler door to make myself feel better, which is kind of silly since, all the bodies are in body bags and dead, but whatever. I felt better. So I finished in the autopsy room and I headed out of the hallway. And as I was leaving, that tapping started knocking louder this time, and it got louder. And I just got out of there as fast as I could and didn't go back. Normally that's the kind of, I don't know, paranormal experience that, people think, oh, boring, just a tapping sound, is that it? But in this case, I guess because of the place where you were at, and this thing with the cooler with the bodies inside and the autopsy area with the blood and everything, it just like makes it 100 times worse, even just hearing anything like a tapping or whatever just really magnifies it and makes it even extra creepy 100 times over. Wow, just glad you got out of there and you didn't go back to look in that cooler.